Right, okay, what we're going to go through tonight in Period 6 is question 5, paper 2, which is the writing task where you have to give your viewpoint or your opinion on a particular topic. We're going to actually focus on the technical accuracy mark, so the 16 mark component, and we're going to think particularly about sentence structures and about punctuation. So we wanted to do something with you where you can leave today's session with some specific strategies that you can use. Okay? So if you have a look at the first sheet, which is on the PowerPoint here, AQA, who is the exam board that you're doing your exam for, they've actually suggested for question 5, paper 2, that you try and learn some of these sentence stems and try and use them in your piece of writing. Okay? So they've actually given them names. So if you look, for example, at the contrast sentence, so if the topic that you've been asked to write about was homelessness, you might say something like, whilst we sleep in our comfortable beds safely within our secure homes, there is another world out there which literally begs us to listen. Okay? So you can see, and you might want to grab a highlighter here, you can see that they're encouraging you to make a contrast between us and our lives and then other people's lives. Now that structure could lend itself to different topics. So even if it was on something like poverty in third world countries, you could say, whilst we sleep in our comfortable beds, there's another world out there, thousands of miles away, etc. So try and learn some of these stems. I'll just pick out a few of the others because you can read through the rest on your own. Obviously, the question, we encourage you to use rhetorical questions. The dramatic sentence is quite a good one. So if you can use a statement that is quite short, so a simple sentence usually, that is quite shocking. Okay, so if you just put on your sheet there, it needs to be a shocking statement and you are best to use a simple sentence. Because if you want something to have an impact or be quite profound, simple sentences work best. Now, can anyone tell me, with simple sentences, how else can you make them stand out in a piece of writing to add extra drama to them? You can add extra punctuation, so you might make it an exclamatory statement, so an exclamation mark at the end. You could have ellipsis. It's less to do with punctuation.
Could you put them in on their own?
As a what on its own?
A paragraph.
Good. So you could have a one-sentence paragraph that's quite dramatic. Okay? So it's all about crafting and shaping the piece of writing using different sentence types and lengths and different paragraph lengths. Okay, we've got the trailer opening, which is supposed to remind you of a film. So we've all been to the cinema. And if you imagine that man with the deep voice who introduces films, he'll say things like, we live in a world where there are people dying on the streets, where young adults starve for the want of a warm meal, where old men collapse with hypothermia for the sake of a comfortable bed. Is this the world we want for our children? So if you again just pick out these sentence stems, so we live in a world where, then you've got that where again. So you set up 3 alternatives, this world that we live in. Okay? And then you follow that with a colon, and then you ask a rhetorical question. And again, that can be adapted to different topics. So it's all about going away and learning some of these stems. Again, you've got sentence structures like the for too long sentence. So for too long we've ignored the pressing issue of the homeless in our society. Well, that could be anything. That could lend itself to vegetarianism as a topic. So you could say, for too long we've ignored the rights of animals. So do you see how these phrases and these sentence stems work for different topics? You've got the now more than ever sentence. So now more than ever, we need to ensure that those who lack the basic human rights of shelter and warmth are provided with hope and a better future. Again, it could be used in different topics. And then finally, the I understand sentence with however after that. So I understand that there are people out there who claim that some homeless people are not genuine. Then you've got a semicolon and however. However, can we afford to play with people's lives based on what we think are a minority? So try, you're not going to be able to learn all of them and remember them, but try to learn 3 and try and use those in your question 5 paper 2. Okay? Right, if you can flip over onto the next page, the back side of that one. Just get rid of that. Okay, what you've got here then is the punctuation pyramid. Now you've probably seen this before, probably at primary school. Have any of you seen it at secondary school? No. No, okay. A lot of us need reminding about it. So not only are you trying to use different sentence types, like the ones we've just looked at, you're also trying to use all 11 punctuation marks, that variety, and use them correctly. So it's all of these ones in the base of the triangle that you're trying to use, okay? We'll go through those at a different point, so that they're just there for you to refer to. And what we've got next on your sheet are different sentence types. Now, I'm not talking about grammatical sentence types like compound sentences and simple sentences. We're talking about these. Now, these types of sentences, examiners like you to use a variety of. So, obviously it's there on the sheet for you, but declarative sentences make a statement. Now, can anyone tell me, when I'm giving my opinion, why might it be good and effective to use declarative sentences? What does it show you that I have a strong, pardon? I've got authority, brilliant, okay, so I have real self-belief in what I'm saying if I make declarative statements. What have I got strong ones of if I use declaratives? Opinions, strong opinions, okay, so a person that is confident to make those statements, those declaratives, has strong viewpoints, and that's what this exam paper is all about. Interrogative. So, sentences where you pose a question. So you'll be used to using rhetorical questions. So do that to engage your audience. Imperatives. Again, giving commands. Caris, again, what does that show? That I've got as an authority again. So if I tell you to stop eating meat now, or refrain from smoking, I'm using imperative verbs to tell you or to show you that my viewpoint should be listened to. And then finally, the 4th type of sentence is an exclamative or an exclamatory is the proper name for it really. So a sentence that makes an exclamation. Can anybody tell me why those types of sentences are good for question 5 paper 2? Giving a viewpoint or an opinion. What do they show that I feel about my viewpoint if I use exclamatory sentences? Passionate, yeah, is that what you're going to say? Good. So I've got to show passion, I've got to show authority and belief in what I'm saying. I've got to be firm with my listeners and tell them that they have to listen to my opinion. And I want to prompt them to think. So on your plan, you can just list those sentence types and make sure you use a variety of them. Okay, the final thing that you have got on that sheet there is, where are we? You've got some subordinating conjunctions. Right, does anybody know these words and phrases, what do they allow you to do? So learning some of those, what do they allow you to do? Do what, sorry? Add to sentences, right, okay. They allow me to add subordinate clauses, therefore making what type of sentences? Complex, okay? So just write at the top of that box that these words and phrases allow me to make complex sentences. And to get a grade 4 or above, you have to use complex sentences correctly. So what I sometimes get pupils to do is learn at least 5 of them, and on their plan write them down so that they are encouraged to use complex sentences. So the easiest ones to use, and you can highlight them now, are although, as, I'm going to give you more than 5, even if and even though, if is a good one, rather than, things like wherever and whenever and when. Those are the easiest ones to use. So just to give you an example, I could have a simple sentence like, I love teaching. Okay, that's a simple sentence. If I wanted to make it complex, I could say something like, even though the pupils can be challenging, comma, I love teaching. Now obviously, because that would be at the beginning of the sentence, that would be a capital E, but even though the pupils can be challenging, comma, I love teaching. So if you learn some of these subordinating conjunctions, you can create complex sentences. So just to sum up, the reason you've got all that information on the first sheet is so that you can use different sentence types, declaratives, exclamatories, interrogatives, and imperatives. You can use complex sentences with these subordinating conjunctions. You can think about the 11 punctuation marks that you've got to use, and you can try and use some of these AQA sentence stems. Okay, so you've got a few things there that you can learn. Right, if you go on to the next page then. Right, so what I've actually done for you here is I've given you a sample task for question 5, paper 2. So if you have a look at the top, GCSEs are not an accurate measure of how successful someone will be in life.
I agree.
Write an article for a broadsheet newspaper explaining your point of view on this statement. Now I'm not going to focus on vocabulary, I'm not going to focus on A, Forest and IMP techniques. All we're focusing on is sentence structures and punctuation. So if you have a look at the paragraph that I've written in the centre, I'll just read it to you and then I'll point out what's good about it and what's not so good about it. I don't think GCSEs are an accurate measure of how successful someone will be in life at all. I believe that the most successful business people in the world often have mediocre GCSEs. Look at Alan Sugar, who started a market stall in London at age 15, and now he is a global entrepreneur. Maybe we should start developing these types of skills in schools and stop teaching pointless topics like Shakespeare and algebra. Okay? And that, to be honest, is my point of view, because I do think that sometimes pupils with more average grades have other skills they have to compensate. But anyway, my view is sort of pointless for what we're doing, sentences and punctuation. However, if this were being marked by me, the credit that I would give to this pupil is that they have got a clear viewpoint. Okay, and that's one of the things that you're assessed for on this task. However, looking at the 16 marks for technical accuracy, my punctuation is limited to only 2 types. What 2 types of punctuation have I used? Full stop and apostrophe. And let's be honest, the apostrophe was probably by chance because I've used the word don't. Okay, it wasn't really a planned instance of an apostrophe. Okay, so you can see that I'm really limited on my punctuation. So we've got to try and improve that paragraph. Now we may adapt the information, that's fine, but I'm going to show you how you think about different ways of improving your sentences and punctuation. So if you have a look in the top left-hand corner here, so going back to those AQA sentence stems, so I've tried to include 3 of those sentence types. Whilst we drive our children into an early grave, forcing them to revise relentlessly for GCSEs, there is another world out there where GCSEs are completely irrelevant. For too long, we have overemphasised the importance of traditional exams. It is time that we started placing more value on vocational skills. Now, more than ever, we need to ensure that those who struggle with academia are equipped with more valuable skills. So you can see it sounds better. I know I've changed some of the wording, but just by using that contrast sentence, the for too long sentence, and the now more than ever sentence. So try and include some of those in your writing. Okay, if you have a look at the top right-hand corner here, if you struggle to remember things like that, think about just varying your sentence length. Now, I don't know if any of your teachers have ever encouraged you to do this task before, but it's really quite effective. So, have you ever been given numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah? So, what I would ask you to do is write a paragraph. I'd ask you to write a paragraph where the first sentence has 5 words in it, the second sentence only has 1, etc., etc. And it's a really good activity because pupils will ask me, they'll say, oh, can I do 29 words or can I do 4 words? And my answer is always no. Because part of getting you to think about sentences is getting you to carefully select words. Because if your sentences vary in length, it's more interesting to read. It creates a rhythm. Okay? So let's just have a look. Now you'll see that I've highlighted before I read it, and you'll hear the rhythm. You'll see that I've highlighted the longer sentences in the pink or the purple. I've highlighted the short, simple sentences in yellow, and then the one-word sentence in turquoise. Now, I'll read it quite deliberately so that you can hear the emphasis. But if sentences are all the same length, it sounds really monotonous, really boring. So let's listen to what this sounds like. GCSEs do not govern success. Fact. You only need to look at the most successful business people in the world to see that actually a set of mediocre results does not limit your life chances. Look at Alan Sugar, for example. At age 15, he started a market stall which sold recycled radios, and now he is a global entrepreneur. Have I given you food for thought yet? Maybe we should start developing these types of entrepreneurial skills in schools as a matter of urgency, before it's too late. So hopefully you just heard that there's a bit more rhythm in the sentence type. So do that as part of your revision. Set yourself, just pick random numbers where you've got some shorter sentences followed by some longer ones, and it creates that rhythm and makes it more interesting to read. Okay, another way that you can improve your sentences, go down to the bottom left-hand corner. So we spoke about using declaratives, interrogatives, imperatives and exclamatories. Let's have a look. I'm going to ask you to identify what type of sentence each one is. And the yellow highlighting is to help you do that. GCSEs do not govern success. Why do we still continue to overemphasise the importance of traditional GCSE exams when entrepreneurs like Alan Sugar have become successful without them? It is an undeniable fact that the most influential business people in the world were fairly mediocre performers at school. Rather than burdening young people with unnecessary stress, we should be cultivating skills that really matter. Take action now and boycott GCSEs. Right, let's see if we can firstly define which type of sentences I've used there to give my opinion. So who can tell me, GCSEs do not govern success. What type of sentence is that out of those 4?
Interrogative.
Interrogative suggests I'm interrogating and questioning, which I'm not doing there. Declarative, yeah. I'm declaring or making a statement, so just label it on there. And do you remember when Karis said that it makes me sound like I've got authority? Almost like I know what I'm talking about and that I've got a firm opinion. GCSEs do not govern success. Sound confident. Okay, the next type of sentence, the clue is in the punctuation mark at the end. Interrogative, yeah, good. So what I'm encouraging my reader to do there is engage with the topic, and I'm almost challenging them to disagree with me. It's almost like I believe that my argument is so convincing, how dare you disagree with me? What type of sentence do I use next? It is an undeniable fact that the most influential business people in the world were fairly mediocre performers at school. Yeah. I'm going to go back to sentence 1 because really you could argue it's what type of sentence as well. Exclamatory, yeah, good, sorry. Missed the exclamation mark there. Shows I've got passion, like we said earlier. So I'm passionate about my opinion. What type of sentence is this that starts with rather than and has got a comma in it? It might not be one of those 4 sentence types.
Subordinate conjunction.
Good, it's a complex sentence with a subordinating conjunction. So I'm showing the examiner that I can do all these different sentence types, including complex sentences. And then finally, what type of sentence have I got at the end? Take action, boycott GCSEs.
Imperative.
Imperative. Again, all the way through, I sound confident about my opinion, and that is part of what you've got to do. So not only will your vocabulary make you sound confident and make your viewpoint strong, but your sentence types will as well. So vary them a little bit. Okay, final box on the right-hand corner. Punctuation. So if you can see, I've improved 2 punctuation marks to, I think there's about, how many are there here? I think there's about 8, I've not counted them anyway. How many different marks? Now just a few quick strategies that you can do. I've added little bits of information. So if you look at this section in the brackets, so I've said in my original paragraph that Alan Sugar started a market stall. Now because I want to get brackets in there, I've just changed it a little bit and I've said he started a market stall, bracket, and then I've added extra information, which sold recycled radios, bracket. So do you see how just by adding a bit of extra information, I've managed to vary my punctuation? Okay? I've also, by using a colon here, after for example, I've given further evidence of something. So I've begun a list, if you like, of evidence. So you've got to be strategic and try and get some of these punctuation marks in there. I've used a semicolon. Now, semicolons, if you're unsure, show how 2 sentences are linked. So it can be cause and effect, or just related sentences. So you have to strategically try and get one of those, or a couple of those, into your piece of writing. Okay? So it should be a conscious process writing. It shouldn't be an unconscious process. So when I write, I have to think about all these punctuation marks. But I've got my exclamatory sentences again, so I've got an exclamation mark in there. I've got extra information in between a pair of commas. I believe wholeheartedly. Now that's something you could steal, isn't it, just to get a pair of commas in about any topic. I believe wholeheartedly that everyone should become vegetarian. Okay? When you finish paragraphs, not all of them, but it's nice sometimes to use ellipsis before it's too late and just leave that thought lingering in your reader's head. Okay? So those are ways of varying sentence types and punctuation. What you're going to do then now, on the next sheet, on the next sheet, I'll just get rid of that. I have given you a new topic. Why is it not working? I've given you a new topic, which I shall read out to you now. Not long, Tashi, don't worry. New topic. I've written you an original paragraph to give you some ideas. And then you're going to try and employ and use some of these methods. Okay? So the task is, young people need more discipline. All pupils at Phoenix should be compelled to enrol onto the cadets programme. Write a broadsheet article explaining your point of view on this statement. Okay? So my original paragraph, now I've sort of chosen the viewpoint for you, I'm afraid, because it's about sentences here, is this. I think pupils at Phoenix should be compelled to enrol onto the cadets programme. I believe that the pupils who show most respect to teachers and the highest level of dedication to their studies are the cadet pupils. Look at the pupils who attained the best GCSE results in recent years and who are now actively engaged in further education or vocational training. In the majority, they are pupils who participated in the cadets. Maybe we should start cultivating skills like self-discipline and resilience and stop pandering to excuses. Now, did you notice that when I read that out, rhythmically it didn't sound very interesting? Yeah, it was all sort of similar sentence lengths. Do you notice by looking at it that the only punctuation marks I use, am I right in saying, is a full stop and a comma?
Yeah.
Yep. So you can see that in that technical accuracy mark, I am not varying sentences or punctuation at all. It's all correct, and it all makes sense, and my viewpoint's there, but I'm not thinking about that 16 mark component. So I now want you just to choose one of these boxes. That's got a spelling error in it, sorry about that. Okay, so that should say, pen's not working. That should say punctuation variety. Choose one of those boxes and try and rewrite something that expresses a similar opinion to that I think all young people should be part of the cadets, but uses one of these examples of how to improve sentences or punctuation. Do you all understand what I want you to do? Yeah? Okay. Can you just stop the camera for a second for me? Thank you.